Welcome everyone, Costini here with the discussion about World of Warcraft Classic Season of Mastery. To talk about, well, the launch date. Blizzard has decided that they're not gonna do the smart decision. The smart decision would have been to spend the next few months gradually improve on Classic Fresh, implement more and more improvements, and then release it. Hell, they have talked themselves about how they're going to introduce more limitations to power leveling and boosting and gold farming, and it seemed, based on some of the statements that they were making, that they might actually take their time and release Classic Fresh Season Mastery properly. This is not what they've decided to do. Instead of taking their time, they've decided to rush it. Now, why are they doing that? Well, I'll talk about that later in this video after I read their post. But the short answer of this is they're desperate. They're desperate for a win, and they're gonna rush in right now with all the negative consequences it's gonna have, and they're gonna repeat the same thing that they did with TBC Classic. Because remember, TBC Classic had a release date announced where we had too little time to prepare for it. And now, again, we have too little time to prepare for it, and it's going to end up being a mess. Again. Because we saw how it went with TBC Classic. This is what they're doing right now with Classic Fresh. They're rushing it. They're rushing it because they're desperate. They're rushing it because they need a win this year. And it's that short-term thinking that's going to bite them in the ass. If this is the new Blizzard that they're talking about, then quite frankly, it's not going to last long. But anyway, from Blizzard's website, WoW Classic Season of Mastery, name reservation and release date. WoW Classic Season of Mastery name reservations will open on November 11th. Players with an active subscription or game time on their WoW account will be able to create one character per account. And then the release date will release worldwide on November 16th at 3 p.m. PST. For me personally, that's going to be about 2 a.m. And it's, or rather 1 a.m. actually, and it's, yeah, great. Middle of the night. As usual with Europe, this is what we get anyway. When you reserve a name, you'll also choose the realm you play that character on. It will be interesting to see how many servers there will be on. There are a few additional things to keep in mind. After WoW Classic Season of Mastery is live, you'll be able to create additional characters, up to 50 characters in WoW Classic, Burning Crusade Classic, 50 in WoW and WoW Shadowlands. The characters that were created for the WoW Classic Season of Mastery beta will not be available in the WoW Classic Season of Mastery. For a reservation period only, we will have a limit on the number of characters that can be reserved on Realm. When the realms go live, that limit will be removed. To create a character, okay, so they're talking about what you need to do. And then honestly, not really all that much. They're not giving us anything to go by. They're not really telling us anything new. They're just telling, oh, it's coming out on this date at this time, and you'll be able to reserve your character. Okay, but are you going to implement more changes to it? What are we going to get? How's the rating going to be? How's the economy going to be? Are we going to deal with those issues? No, they're not. Or they might, and I emphasize the might part in this statement, they might deal with some of those issues after the launch of Classic Fresh in the months to come, after it launches. So we're going to have a rough state, we're going to have a rough launch, we're going to have a large number of issues, and they're doing this because they are desperate. They're doing this because they're in a really bad position and they need to show their investors something, I suppose. This is what they did with TBC. I mean, is this going to be the way forward, Blizzard? That you make your quarterly financials look better by rushing a release that, quite frankly, isn't really, like, say what you will about TBC Classic. Yeah, that should have been delayed. They shouldn't have released it at the beginning of summer. There were many problems with that to begin with, and there were many problems that are still happening in TBC because of that. But TBC Classic was in a much better state. Here, there's so many issues to fix with Classic that you yourself acknowledge and you don't care, and you're going to release it in 2 weeks or just over 2 weeks, and you're gonna throw this at us? Like, just consider this. Forget the aspect. Forget how the game is. Forget the forget the issues that the game currently has. Consider this aspect with it. WoW is a game determined by its which lives or dies by its community, right? By guilds, by players. What do you think is gonna happen now that Blizzard is saying, "Oh, you have just over 2 weeks to organize everything, organize a guild, recruit people, get ready for Molten Core and Onyxia, which are going to be significantly harder." How do you think that's going to go down for a lot of people? For a lot of guilds, for a lot of communities? It's going to be a giant clusterfuck, which is going to result in a lot of people quitting that otherwise would have played. This is something, by the way, that happened with TBC Classic. A lot of guilds did suffer because of the way Blizzard decided to announce it. You can't just throw an announcement like this, "Oh, we're going to release it in 2 weeks." Classic is a major title, and obviously you're focusing on raiding, you're focusing on having the season, and you're then screwing everyone. Blizzard is screwing everyone with their dumbass, greedy decision that they're doing because they've gone down a bad path as a company. They're doing very poorly, and they're making a asinine decision so that their quarterly financials look better. This is all that this decision is about. They've done this before. They're doing it again. Is this all we can expect from Blizzard Entertainment right now? Is this what they've devolved into? Because quite frankly, this is a pile of shit. This decision is an absolutely horrible one. Now, look, I'm not surprised by a November release date. In fact, I've talked about this in some previous videos that I did actually expect that it would either be late November. I was a bit off the mark there, but I was thinking somewhere like maybe the 20th, past the 20th, 25th, something like that, closer to 30th of November. Clearly, I was wrong there, but I did expect it. I wouldn't have been surprised by November. That doesn't mean that the decision isn't a bad one, because it absolutely is a horrible decision to do it right now. And what do they think is going to happen? What does Blizzard genuinely think? Do they even care that this is not going to have a long shelf life? Do they even believe that? Or maybe here's a different logic. Maybe they know all these issues. Maybe they're well aware, but they've also looked at the reaction a lot of people have had in the beta. And yeah, there's people excited. Myself, I like some of the changes. I would love them to do more with those, to improve on rating, to improve on the economy, to deal with the bots, the gold sellers, to deal with all these problems, to actually tackle these issues, to have a plan, not rush it out the fucking front door just because they need to make their financials look better. I would like them to do all that. But, there's things that have me excited, and that's the reason I'm so pissed, because there was so much potential for them to do a lot more than the crap they're doing right now, which is not going to be enough. But then there's a lot of people that are apathetic. The beta participation hasn't been the greatest in the world, and so what are we left with, really? Like, is this going to be it? Is Blizzard just accepting the fact that Classic Fresh is going to fail? Like, if you're releasing something under the assumption that it's going to fail, big fucking surprise, it will. If you're not going to try and fix things, it's going to fail, right? There's a ton of people who may not play the beta, who have no interest in it, because right now we have very little to test, right? There's a lot of people who have no interest in beta, but would absolutely love to play Classic Fresh if it was done properly, if they were doing a lot more than they're currently doing right now. But they're not. They're not thinking like that. They're thinking, let's cut our losses. Maybe, that's the theory I have. Maybe they're just assuming that it's not going to be as successful. Or I could be wrong. Maybe it is very successful. What the hell do I know, right? About it. But to me, this entire situation, the whole affair of what they're doing, really stinks of greed, of corporate decisions, of short-term thinking, very short-term thinking. Like, yeah, this is going to make them, put them in a positive, I guess, for a couple of months, but then it's going to go down. And then what, Blizzard? Like, let me ask the following question. What then? Like, okay, you put Classic Fresh, you're not going to be as horrible for a couple of months, but then all the problems that Blizzard has all those issues, the fact that WoW retail is in the gutter, the fact that TBC Classic isn't doing so well, Classic Fresh won't do so well, Overwatch is gone, Heroes of the Storm is gone, StarCraft has been abandoned, Diablo has nothing to show for it. Like, what is going to happen? Like, this is where Blizzard is right now, with the smaller community, and they're trying desperately, it feels like, to keep at least some portion of their player base, but it isn't the right way they're doing. And they should know this. They are a company, this is the infuriating aspect of Blizzard, they are a company that in the past, they did show they understood these issues, because they understood that if they released a crappy product, that they rushed out the gate, it would bite them. And when they did rush a product out, it did bite them, and it did go badly for them. But that's where we are at right now with Blizzard Entertainment. Finally, I want to talk about personal perspective. Will I play it? Will I personally play it? Yeah, I'll try it out, but I'll be upfront. In my perspective, I don't think it's going to do well. I think there's going to be a lot of problems. I think a lot of servers will struggle. I'm curious to see how many servers they think it should have, and whether or not they'll hit the mark this time, because they obviously missed it with Classic Fresh. I wonder if this time around they'll have a good idea before the launch of how many people will actually play this thing, or if we're gonna see again more overpopulated servers. We'll see, right? We'll see what ends up happening with respect to that. I will play it. I'll try it out. I don't know if I'm gonna get to 60. I'm not sure what kind of guild I'm gonna play on or what level I'm gonna play on. I don't see a large number of guilds, and this is, by the way, a problem, believe it or not. This is a major issue that I'm going to talk about. I do not personally see a large number of guilds lining up to play in this, organizing stuff, because you need that. You need that for an MMO to be successful. MMOs that have had, even MMOs that ultimately failed, let's be clear, even MMOs that ultimately failed did far better than maybe they should have when they had guilds participating, when they had guilds organizing. A perfect example of this is actually WildStar. Now, WildStar failed for a large number of reasons, but one of the things that did help it immensely and helped it to, I think, achieve millions of players at launch was the fact that you had a very, very large number of guilds being organized, put together for the purpose of raiding, and beyond that, ended up going up in flames because of many issues that the game had. Performance issues, balance issues, economy issues. Big fucking surprise, those weighed down the game quite significantly. But it did get a great deal of hype, and it did steamroll for a bit, for a couple of weeks, for a couple of months, and before dropping into the abyss. With Classic Fresh, it's just going to drop into the abyss in the first few days. That's how bad it's going to be. I mean, if you're thinking that people are going to want, like consider this, if you think that people are going to want to play Classic Fresh because, they're improving rating. Okay, before we get to rating, we have many hours of leveling to go through. And if we don't have a community, that's the thing. This is one of the reasons Classic Fresh itself was successful. It had those guilds. It had so many guilds, so many players, so many communities involved in it. It was going to be successful on that alone, because people had a certainty that when they were leveling and they were putting in all that time in leveling, that they were going to have other people to play, that they were going to have a guild to play in, a community to play in. That was crucial. Are we going to see that in Classic Fresh? Obviously, there's going to be guilds, no doubt about it. There's going to be some organization, but this is going to be a major problem. And the reason it's going to be a major problem, in part, Blizzard did not give us the time to set it up. It takes time to set all of that up. And the sad part is, they should know this. If they don't know this, then they should stop working on World of Warcraft. That they can't understand everything that I've talked about in this video, or at least this aspect about guilds, community, and taking time, organizing things, because it takes time. For guilds to have a good launch, for them to have a raiding team, it takes time to find the right people, talk with them, interview them, get them in your guild, see their schedule, see if they're fitting, see if they're going to have time off, especially at the launch, all that kind of stuff. You need that time. Blizzard is not giving us that time because of stupid reasons. Very short-term thinking. It's going to blow up in their face. Costin here signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. And stay tuned for more, and I'll see you in Azeroth. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna play. Maybe Paladin. Human Paladin, we'll see.